Hello and welcome to the Hub Podcast. My name is Eric Berger, Marketing Communications Manager for VolunteerHub, the industry-leading volunteer management software that helps nonprofits better recruit, engage, and manage volunteers. Today I'm joined by a special guest, Matthew Herrera, Volunteer Manager for West Houston Assistance Ministries. He's going to be talking about the success that their organization has had with VolunteerHub. So I'd just like to say welcome to the podcast, Matthew. If you don't mind, can you give us kind of a brief rundown of what your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah, so here as an organization, we run a food pantry and a resale store, and then we also have client services, which would prepare people for job readiness and education, stuff like that. So my role here as a volunteer manager is I oversee all three. So we say we have three different programs that I manage in terms of volunteers. So I provide food pantry volunteers, I provide client service volunteers, and our resale store volunteers. Now, our resale store volunteers, they're going to focus on the donation center because everything in our resale store is donated. So we have to actually go through all the items. So that happens Tuesday through Saturday. So 5 days a week right there is spent trying to get people to, of course, volunteer for that side and donation center. Then client services, we offer ESL classes. So finding an ESL teacher, GED classes, finding a GED teacher as well. And then we also do job readiness. So I find volunteers to help with resume building, help with, career services in terms of, mock interviews, helping people learn small skills on how to get a job, what they need to say during interviews, doing all of that kind of preparation that is needed. And that is very extensive. That happens like twice a week where we do that stuff. And then the other side, the biggest side, is the food pantry. So last year, we assisted over 130, 140,000 people. We gave out 2.6 million pounds of food. So there is a lot of food that goes in and out. 2.6 million pounds of food
Wow.
went into our food pantry and out of our food pantry. So that is all handed out by volunteers. It's sorted by volunteers. Now we do have a staff. We have a staff of about 8 people in the food pantry, 6 people, well, 6 full-time, 2 part-time, but the rest is volunteers. So you're talking about handing out 2.6 million pounds to 130,000 people. That is a lot,
Yeah, that's a
and
lot.
we do that 5 days a week. So we do that Monday through Friday. So 6 days out of the week, we have volunteers involved in something that's going on. So daily, that's what I manage. My role as a volunteer manager, and that's what I manage day to day, which is 6 days a week. So it is a lot, but we'll get into how I do it and how it's easy in my eyes. But yeah,
What is the aim of your program holistically?
we say that clients come to us in crisis, and our goal is to get them to self-sufficiency, where they don't have to rely on us or any government program or anything. They're able to, have that food security, have housing, have rental assistance, have a good paying job, be able to support their kids, through childcare and stuff like that. And so as the cost of everything goes up, it makes that tougher, right? It's a lot harder now than ever to, kind of become self-sufficient. But that's why we're here, because we have those tools and resources to get people to be there. So just very important for us. But no, that's spot on. Self-sufficiency is what we aim to do actually here. That's the exact verbiage we use. Our mission is to serve those who come to us for help, regardless of their background, belief, or circumstance. So we're actually changing that. We're changing the mission statement actually to um, same right along the lines. It's not final, so I won't misquote it, but we are changing it because what we do now is not. We've been around for 40 years, right? And the past, when the pandemic hit, everything changed. I mean, in the world, everything changed. The way we looked at things, the way we viewed things. So we're actually changing the mission statement because we've gone a complete 180 into case management. And we have 5 case managers here, and their goal is to take each client on a path to self-sufficiency. And that includes our wraparound service model. So we're changing our mission statement that will align with that, because we help with rental assistance, we help with food assistance, we help with job readiness, career services, education. We're working on a partnership with HCC, which Houston Community College. So we'll be able to add more education resources. We have medical resources right now with local clinics and stuff like that we can refer people out to and get them in to see a doctor very quickly. And we'll even have where they bring a big charter bus, their mobile units out to our own property where clients can just come to us and not have to drive further. Obviously, cost of gas. I mean, people are really pinching pennies, right? Cost of gas is going up. It's not slowing down. Here in Houston at least. So we're able to provide those services here on site, which is very big for us. But yeah, our mission statement right now, as it stands on the website, would be serve those who come to us regardless of their background, belief, or circumstance. But it's going to change here in the near future to that whole self-sufficiency we just talked about.
And I know you talked about volunteers and how important obviously volunteers are. You mentioned the food bank specifically. Do you use volunteers across all the programs that you offer, or do volunteers kind of fit in portions of it at the moment?
No, so they're all over. So they're in the three categories. They'll help with our donation center for our resale store. They'll help with the education and career service side of things, job readiness, stuff like that. And then they will also help with the food pantry. So those are those three main areas that they will help with. And this year alone, well, it hasn't even been a year. So I got to WHAM. Actually, it hasn't even been a year. And we launched VolunteerHub June 1st. We've had over 1,400 volunteers come in.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have had extreme success with what we do.
Yeah, and
I'm excited to have this conversation because hopefully people can model what I have done and use it for them, their own organization to really drive in people.
that's awesome to hear that you've had so much success with Volunteer Hub. On your website, it says that volunteers provided over 43,000 hours. Is that within the last year?
It was just over the course of probably 8 months. Our yearly thing turned out so that one that was posted, there was a lot going on during the summer here at WHAM, so it turned out to be nearly 50,000 hours for the time frame. Now that is just the roughly 43,000, 45,000. That is roughly just in the 9 months of Volunteer Hub being up and running from June 1st to the date. We have definitely grown. The numbers that are on the website are not up to date, I guess you would say, because of when the numbers were taken. So when I got here last April, it was pen and paper. It was very, there was no organization. It was, you would fill out a form. I would take that form online. I would copy and paste all of it into another database, which was in Microsoft Access. So not cloud-based, right? So I transfer the information over. Then we're going to do a background check. I send an email off to our HR and pro team. They then would respond maybe 3 days later with the background check. And once I send your name and email to H&R Pro, they would then send you a link. So whenever you get that link, you would then fill out the background check. Then it goes to H&R Pro, right? They do the background check. Then that process could take roughly 3 days. Then it comes back to me. Then I reach out to you and schedule. And then from there, you're talking about like a week.
Yeah.
At least to get in, right?
And that's each volunteer, correct?
Correct. So impossible to do the numbers that we've done. That's why the numbers are slightly behind because for one, the reporting, the amount of time it took to report that information was I'd never seen anything like it. I literally sat there, was just like, wow. And I now, mind you, I have never prior to April. It's not like I came in knowing about Volunteer Hub or volunteer databases or stuff like that. I knew the basics of a nonprofit, and I know how nonprofits worked and how to build them and do all that stuff. But in terms of a volunteer database, I did not. But I at least knew that there was no way that this is the best process, right? This is a bunch of manual data. And the point you brought up about nonprofits, there's a big logical fallacy in nonprofits, and it cracks me up because nonprofits, we already know they operate on thin margins. They operate with little staff. Why would you at any point be doing manual data entry? Like everything should be as automated as possible. Yes, it is an investment. There are grants out there that give money towards databases, towards software and stuff like that. Not to mention fundraising, which we'll get into later how we leverage that. But you can't tell me that you got thin margins and you got little staff and then you're going to be doing a bunch of manual data entry. I mean, the amount of time you're spending doing that alone, you're losing out on money, right? Because you're not able to focus on cultivating those relationships. You're more worried about transferring information over left, right, and then put in human error and you make a mistake on somebody's email. Well, now you can't get a hold of them, right? You make a mistake on their phone number. Now you got to go back and do all that stuff. So you can't operate on thin margins and stuff like that and not use technology. You've got to be into technology nowadays. And I'm not saying you need some full blown system, but you definitely need something more than pen and paper, you know? So when I got here, that's what we were doing. And I said, okay, well, there's got to be a better option out there. And that's when we went exploring.
Yeah. So what was the onboard, like, as far as the onboarding for you? Because I think that's a different angle too, trying to, as the program grows and more resources and people come into the volunteer program to assist, trying to explain that manual process. So I'm sure the onboarding experience for you was fairly tough coming into that process that was handed over to you before.
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest complaint, so we had very little corporate organizations wanted to get involved, just given the fact it took way too long to schedule things, get back with things. I mean, like I said, it takes a week, right? I mean, it's a week before we can get in. People want fast and easy, corporate America and everybody outside that's going to come volunteer. Yes, volunteering is great and they're giving back and stuff like that, but that's not enough in today's society, right? We live a busy life. I live a busy life, right? I don't want to go somewhere where it's going to take me a week to get in, right? That in 2023, that we would consider that unacceptable, right? I don't care if you're in healthcare, I don't care if you're a doctor's office, dental's office, or whatever. If it takes more than a week to get seen, they're going to go somewhere else. There's too much competition out there and too many nonprofits out there where I can go get my hours in and not have to wait a week or two and do a bunch of outdated processes. So yeah, when I got here, we were behind on corporate people coming in. They'd come in maybe once a year, whatever, and that was it because it's just too hard to come back and it takes too long. There's not enough communication. So that was a big, big factor. And we wanted more corporations in there because corporations means money. And again, we'll get into that later. But yeah, coming in, I was like, wow, yeah, we've got to get faster.
Yeah, so let's I think that's a good gateway into shifting a little bit towards Volunteer Hub. So, you mentioned when you came in, it was all manual. When the organization kind of went through the process of vetting volunteer management software, I mean, what were the features that you guys were looking for, or you were looking for specifically, out of a software
Absolutely.
solution?
Absolutely. So, and I'll be upfront with this. I had gone to 7 or 8 different volunteer database companies. It wasn't just VolunteerHub. It was 7 or 8. VolunteerHub was the best, but 7 or 8 of them is what we went with. And so as I'm looking through them, number one was we needed automated emails. We needed to be able to mass communicate with volunteers at a very fast pace, right? Because we're going to bring, my goal coming in was to just flood this place with volunteers, right? Just get them in. And the work we do will sell itself. The second thing was volunteer registration. Again, when they would register before, it was register. I had to manually copy information over, and then I'd circle back and get a hold of them. I needed somewhere all information is going to be stored in one central location. So that's a volunteer database, yes, but it's that volunteer registration profile. Also, too, I needed the volunteer registration to be able to be done on the phone. And the reason I needed to be able to be done on the phone is because QR codes and links that I can send, everybody's on their phone. So you can register very quickly on your phone. But another feature that is on the phone is autofill. And a ton of people use autofill, right? So if you're on your phone with Volunteer Hub, and you go to register, it will manually fill that stuff. I'm sorry, automatically fill that stuff in for you if you have autofill on. So it's like, oh, hey, this is very important. And then we needed event schedules, and again, that mobile capability was huge. But event schedules too. We needed to have an online event sign up process. Before, we would just have the three things posted that I kind of talked about and just have the time frames. And you would email me the time that you wanted to come or what you wanted to do. There was no actually scheduling. We couldn't adjust the hours or anything like that. So events was a very, very big thing. We needed separate events to be done. And the second part that we needed was background checks. So again, as I mentioned, it could take 3 days to get a background check back, right? Well, Sterling Volunteers, which I highly recommend everybody use. The PeopleSoft, I'm sure, is great too, but I've personally used Sterling. I know other organizations that use Sterling. They're super fast. They're super easy. They're an amazing organization. Uh, that part was important too. We needed those background checks to come back faster, and with Sterling, it comes back within 4 hours. So you can sign up in the morning, and really, it will come back within less than an hour. The only reason it may take up to 4 is if you have multiple addresses that you previously lived at, where Sterling has to kind of check more boxes. But if you've only lived at one address or two addresses, which most people have, right? It's kind of average normal. Then it will be able to get that background check to us very fast. Not to mention it's all automated. So we did the integration part, which again, it's a $1,900 investment, but I'm telling you, you'll never pay it again. And it is well worth it because it is a contactless registration, check-in process, all that kind of stuff. So Sterling background check was very big for us as well. It just worked numbers for us so far.
So besides the reduction in potential errors,
Mhm.
that come from manually entering information. I mean, how many hours do you think you save in a given week, not having to kind of having a lot of the processes automated now through that integration between Sterling Volunteers and Volunteer Hub?
Oh, I mean, I would save, one thing that happens too with just the waiting process alone. Um, I mean, we're talking at least probably 10, 15 hours a week. I mean, it's a lot to have to keep up with and constantly check. And that's why I say that time is up there because the weight. It's not so much the copying pasting from one email to the other. It's the fact that I don't know when that information is going to come, and I have no way to know. There's no anticipation. There's no tracking. Sterling will show you what process and what is happening, what stage that background check is in. Hey, we've checked the national database. Right now, we're going through the state databases, and now we know, hey, one part is already done. We're just waiting for this one other thing to come back. That should probably take, maybe an hour or so. Boom, we have a time frame, right? Whereas the other time, I don't know when this email is going to come within the next 3 days. And then not to mention, I've now got to do all of my normal job stuff and wait for this email to randomly pop up. And hopefully I'm available right when it pops up so I can get that email, copy, paste, and send it to the volunteer really quickly. So, I mean, you're talking 10, 15 hours a week alone, just not having to worry about any of that stuff and manage it. And it's all automated.
So I'm kind of a percentage guy. So you're talking like just about one third, I guess a little over one third of your week
Yeah.
is kind of, optimized at this point.
Yeah. Now
So
it's gone. I mean, that's how I'm so in the volunteer department, I am the only person here. I'm the
yeah.
only volunteer person with 1,400. So it's one per 1,400 volunteers so far in 10 months, right? I've been able to do that because of these systems. It is possible to have one person manage thousands of people, but you've got to have automation. You've got to have that technology and a cloud-based system to do that. And so, yeah, it's definitely saved one third of the work, but that other one third, that's where you spend it recruiting. That's where you
Yep.
spend it getting corporations. That's where you spend it, getting money and fundraising and stuff like that.
So you were talking about kind of as we shift into the features of Volunteer Hub that you kind of find the most valuable. I know we've talked about a little bit of that already, but you mentioned corporate partners. I mean, have you seen an increase in that since you've implemented Volunteer Hub, the ability to kind of reach out to more corporations that might be interested in being involved?
Absolutely. We've got about, I just quickly went over about 20 of them so far. I'm looking at our database right now. That is strictly because I'm able to recruit for one and focus because the rest is automated, right? We have a fast system to log in. And if you're going to go after any organization that's going to go after corporate, groups and stuff like that, I'll tell you the easiest way to do it, and this is how you do it. Landing pages. You need a landing page. And the reason you need a landing page is because that organization, for one, wants to feel special. So I'm able to put their logo on there. I'm able to put information on their page specifically. And all they have to do is click this link. So the one point of contact that I have, all they have to do is have that link, and they can disseminate it to the entire organization at a rapid pace, right? That one link will only have their events. There's no confusion. There's no nothing. This is the Origin Bank. This is the Chase Bank. This is the Frost Bank. This is the whatever group's page. So they just click that link and they'll only see their events, which is perfect. The second thing you got to do is you got to, the group manager is huge. And I'll tell you why that investment is needed and very important. So from a group standpoint, corporate standpoint, the less emails they have to send and contact with external people, the better. The reason why is because they have a full-time job, and that does not include volunteer. Yes, their group, yes, their organization's pushing them to go volunteer. Yes, they're probably being paid to come out and volunteer at your organization. Yes, they probably have every other Friday off, like oil companies, stuff like that. But still, their goal is to have as little communication with the outside world and have the most seamless process set up to get this event going, right? This is on top of their 40 to 50 hour work week. The last thing they need to do is to email you and then say, hey, who has signed up and who has not? Has this person signed up? Has this person signed up? Making them a group manager, I'm able to send them Scribe. Scribe is a free Google Chrome extension. You can literally do it in 4 steps and explain how group manager works. You click a tab, you click view participants, you scroll to the bottom, and now you can see everybody that is signed up. Now your point of contact can internally talk to their entire organization by themselves. They do not need to contact you. So I would highly recommend looking into group manager. I know it's an extra cost, but it saves you time. It saves them time. And that is what you want. You don't want to be contacting the same person all the time. Reminder emails, thank you emails, and on-site check-in. So the reminder emails, of course, you automatically get that with anything, but reminder emails to people that work a 40 to 50 hour week, and they've got to now include a 3-hour thing in their day. Not to mention the travel, they got to go out of their way in the morning to travel. If you're in Houston, we got 6-7 million people that live in the greater Houston area. Traffic is bad. So they're going to have to go out of their way, probably an hour, come by to us, volunteer for 3-4 hours outside, whatever they're doing, and then they're going to go back to work probably for the rest of the day or whatever. Well, that, is not a part of the normal week. So having that reminder email that, hey, here's where to park. You can send any information you want in the reminder email, by the way, but I tell them where to park, what time to show up, where to meet, all that kind of stuff. We have a map and a link. Do that through Canva. Canva's free for nonprofits. There you go. And then a thank you email, talking about what they did that day. If we had 200 to 300 cars come through, I'm going to give them the stats, of their impact. That way they have a metric, right? I served 250 people today. I served this many cars, or this much poundage was given out and stuff like that. That makes people feel good. So that thank you email is to make them feel good. And the on-site check-in. So corporations, we do not have them check in. All you got to do is show up and get to a spot and start volunteering, right? On-site check-in through VolunteerHub. All I got to do is go in there. I click on the group. It's a tab in there on the menu for people that don't have VolunteerHub, but it's a tab on the menu. It's super easy to use on the dashboard. You click it, and then you click check-in all for that user group, which would be that corporation. I can check them all in. When the food drive's over, I can check them all out. So they don't have to worry about iPads and remembering certain information. Make it seamless. You show up, you volunteer, you leave. If anybody has ever seen how a sports organization, so I come from sports, if anybody's ever seen how professional sports operates, people show up and then they leave. Look at politicians. They have people all around them. You just show up, everything is set up, they do their pictures, they do their thing, and they move on. That is what people want when it comes to corporate America and organizations. They want it to be seamless and easy. This is at times this is a burden in their workday, right? They're giving up, especially if you're bringing in executives, they're in charge of millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? They need this process to be as seamless and fast as possible. So if you want these corporate groups, you got to get a landing page because this is a link and they'll only see their events. So it's very easy to navigate. The second thing, invest in group manager because they can talk to all of their people internally very easily and very fast, and they don't need to talk to you to then look, and then you have to reply back and send that. Reminder emails that just reminds them, and you can set this time in VolunteerHub, by the way, to do 1 day, 2 day, 3 days out, whatever. So that's very nice. And then thank you emails, thank them. You can send that reminder. That reminder, I think, is sent within 24 hours. So it's fantastic. And you also have that email ability if you want to send a mass email and you want to send a personalized, your own thank you email, not have it automated, but that's very important too. And then of course, the on-site check-in, you can just track their hours separately, not have them track, check in, check out, make it seamless. And social media, take pictures of them, post it on social media, send that picture in the thank you email. I'm telling you that they'll come back. I've yet to have a group not come back. We've only grown. And I can also tell you this, when you do those little things like that and those corporations come out, they will be the best marketer for you because nothing fires another organization up than to see their neighbor, their competitor volunteering with us, and they're in the same oil field, energy field, and they're not here volunteering with us. I've had that happen so many times because they're competing against each other, and they're saying, "Hey, if you're going to go out there and volunteer, then we are too." And it becomes a competition between them subtly. They're not blatantly saying this, but it has happened so many times. So that's how you get those corporate groups in there using VolunteerHub, and that's why we've had great success.
And I have two more questions, and one is kind of a step backwards.
Yeah.
And it is what was your experience like as far as training, implementation, and support with the Volunteer Hub team?
It's fantastic. I can't, Matthew Murphy he did the demo with me and the training, and he is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet and very knowledgeable of Volunteer Hub. So when it came to doing the demo and the training portion, of course I was more advanced. Me and Matthew were laughing. I was more advanced. So what ended up happening was we go over the demo, right? And Volunteer Hub is so easy to use, and it's very repetitive, which is great because it's super easy, right? Once you're setting certain things up, it's just doing it over and over and over again, modifying a few things in terms of dates or times and thank you letters and just automated messages and stuff like that. So when it came to the demo with Matthew Murphy, nicest guy, super easy. The demo was great. He answered all my questions. We did actually 2 demos just to make sure I understood everything that we were getting because we were going to go the enterprise package. So he was very, very helpful. And Claire Zimmerman is the best support person I've ever had with a database and software. And I've been nonprofit world for 6+ years, by far the best. And I would tell anybody, if you are going to get for one, Volunteer Hub, of course, I fully endorse Volunteer Hub, but if you're going to get any database, you need to 100% be asking questions about after purchase support. And I'm not talking the training, I'm talking about the actual support. If I have a problem with Volunteer Hub and I send Claire an email through their support message board, which is on the dashboard on your main page, I send that within 24 hours, Claire is solving it. And honestly, Claire responds within 2-3 hours. Like it's sometimes it's even faster. I've had Claire answer within 30 minutes and correct the issue that I messed up in the user groups or whatever. And it's not a problem. So the support that you get with Volunteer Hub is just over and beyond probably where it should be for a lot of people because it's so fast and easy. And Claire does an absolute amazing job and the entire team. But yeah, implementation, the demo, the implementation of the training with Matthew, and then of course Claire is just unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we hear that from a lot of nonprofits as far as a differentiation for us is,
Mhm.
client success, implementation, and support. Volunteer Hub stands behind its solution. So I'm
Mhm.
I'm happy to hear that's been your experience.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then my I guess I have two more questions. One
Sure.
is as far as the ROI,
Yeah, this
do
is
you
good.
see a direct correlation between volunteers and donors?
Absolutely, 1,000%. So I'll speak on this because I've hinted at it earlier. So when I talked about corporations, when corporations come out, wherever a corporation volunteers, they give money to. They are going to give you money at some point throughout the year. The better you are at that process, the more money you will get. I promise you, guaranteed. In just 10 months, 9, 10 months, over 25,000 is what we've received as a result of this. So while we did go with the enterprise package, right? Let's talk about return on investment. So we went with the enterprise package that cost 9,000 for first, all implementation, all in, but 7,000 a year is what it really costs after that, basically. So with that being said, we've raised 25,000 in 9 months, 10 months. Okay. So we've covered 3 years of this expense, right? So our return on investment is huge, but that is because we fully utilized everything that Volunteer Hub has to offer. And corporate groups, wherever they volunteer, they're going to give money. We have yet to have a corporation come in, volunteer, and not give us money. It has not happened yet, and it will not happen because it's just how it works. Corporations give out millions of dollars a year, but where do they give it to? They give it to where their employees go. Because if their employees are into something, then the corporate offices are into that same thing because they want to support their employees, and rightfully so, right? They want to align their views with their employee views because that's built a great relationship for them. So our return on investment, I mean, it's 4 times, nearly 3 times right now, 2.5 times. What our initial investment is with year one, but after that, I mean, we've paid for Volunteer Hub over the course of the next 3 years just by the first 9 months of implementation. So, and we're getting more corporate partners. I mean, I just literally just signed up 4 corporate partners this week, new ones. So, and we're talking Staples, Next Tier Energy. They're $1 billion company. That's right down the street. They're a competitor of Centurion Pipeline, who's another volunteer organization of ours. So when you see them competing against each other, and that's what I'm talking about when I say pictures being posted and stuff like that, they market for us, and it's amazing. But our return on investment, I'm telling you, it's huge with that corporate aspect. We've had 2.5 times the return. I mean, 25,000. So it's just been fantastic. And we've had individual donors too that have loved the fact that we've invested in technology with the iPad, the check-in kiosk part for individual donors. We had somebody, her son had autism, and he came in to volunteer this past summer as part of one of the programs that I run. And, I just have a special, spot in my heart for people with, IDD, as they say, individuals with disabilities. They do an amazing job and they deserve an opportunity. And so we have a summer program, and because we have the check-in process, stuff like that, well, that's just like clocking in at work, right? So he's learning these job skills, and turns out his parents are very, very well off financially, and they wrote a $2,000 check after she saw him just checking in on the iPad. She thought that was the coolest thing, and she wanted to support the program and everything we were doing. And this was in June. This was 3 weeks after we started, so we were already getting our first $2,000, in a check, because of that fast process and just the ability to help her son learn skills and get an opportunity that a lot of people just don't get. If you have autism or disabilities and stuff like that, you just don't get the opportunity that others get. We gave it to him. His mom loved it, and so our return on investment has been enormous, and that's why I fully endorse Volunteer Hub. That's why I encourage people to just follow our model, of how we do it. And it's not perfect, and it can be better, but we're seeing some success from it directly. Absolutely, 100%.
I was going to say that doesn't even include your return on investment as far as saving your time. So, I mean,
Exactly. My
that's
time,
just,
and then
yeah.
the amount of people we're able to bring in at 1,400. Prior, we were at about maybe 600 volunteers a year, and now we're at 1,400. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, we're doubling numbers in the amount of volunteers because we're getting away from that manual stuff. You got to be online with that schedule. Like, just the online schedule alone has helped tremendously. The registration, easy. That's not including the corporate. Like, there's different aspects of this, and so um, just how we've made it work and fit in so many areas. My time being saved, right? That allows me to do more. Which is recruiting, which is why we've more than doubled our volunteer numbers. And the exact number of it's like 1.4, what did we say? Yeah, it's like almost it's over 1.3 million, is what has been valued at the amount of volunteers, the amount of volunteer hours, and then the state establishes what each volunteer's hour is worth. And so you multiply that out, we're over 1.3 million. Um,
Wow.
in value there with the amount of volunteers we've had and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, if we, narrow down the numbers towards the end of the year of the full year of Volunteer Hub, it will be over 1.5 million. We've already mapped it out. It'll be over 1.5 million in value, because of the amount of hours and volunteers and stuff like that. So yeah, I can't say enough about it, how important it is. And of course, just the return on investment will be tremendous. It's scary at first, I know, because investing in a donor database is easier to justify to a board or staff because it makes more sense, um, than to say, hey, we're going to invest in this volunteer database, and we're not necessarily going to have, quote unquote, a guaranteed return financially, right? Like donor base, well, they're going to give you money, so you're going to get that return. But volunteer, you don't necessarily see that on paper, but there is so much more value that you will gain. I mean, we've more than doubled our numbers, right? There's a lot of value. We're able to get more stuff done. Our staff is freed up now. You can't forget about the hours that your staff spends, that you pay them to spend doing certain tasks that if you had volunteers, well, they wouldn't have to do it. So there's a big trade-off and stuff like that. You got to look past that initial investment in the money and realize the return on investment. Like I said, we brought in $25,000, so we brought in actual money. You know, um, but again, it's gotten past that first initial drawback and pushback from a board or even directors and CEOs, executive directors, everybody. They're going to push back a little bit because it's not your donor database. It's a it's a volunteer database. So it's just you make that compelling argument, and hopefully this podcast and whatever this becomes, or this information, however it's disseminated, hopefully it gets out there to people so that they can understand that there is a return on investment. I promise you there is with a volunteer database. Volunteer Hub gives you that personalized specifically for volunteers, and they integrate with all of those other CRMs, like Salesforce, which is popular, right? Razor's Edge, Blackbaud, eTapestry, all these kinds of things. They integrate with them. Not to mention, if you're smart enough to use Zapier, which people should look into Zapier. I use Zapier, highly recommended. Zapier has launched Volunteer Hub actually to the next level. And so if people would get into the Zaps, so Zapier integrates with 5,000 different applications, not to mention a webhook. I won't get into what a webhook is, but basically Zapier can connect any database to practically anything. And Volunteer Hub is now integrated with Zapier. So you can save a lot of money. You can integrate with a lot of things. The Plus plan, if you just had the Plus plan and you use Zapier and you're a nonprofit, so you get a 15% discount with Zapier, by the way, you can integrate with any other system that you're using to start out with, in terms of CRMs or databases, client management, Excel sheets, MailChimp, Constant Contact, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I could go on and on, but I can't stress enough how much people need to have a volunteer database and use it. And you're in good hands at Volunteer Hub, worth the investment.
Well, I think it's worth ending on this. Obviously, I want to thank you, Matthew, for taking time out of your day to speak with me and kind of go over the value that you've seen from Volunteer Hub. But I also want to say, if you're in the West Houston community and you're looking for an organization to support and make a difference with, go to West Houston. Go look at West Houston Assistant Ministries website. It's whamministries.org. That's WHAM ministries.org, and go volunteer and make an impact. If you're an organization that's looking for a better way to recruit, engage, and manage volunteers, request a demo with our team today.